Being recorded.
Hi everybody. This is another session of the XStepCafe, and today, as usual, is my special guest Uwe Lippes, and he has prepared some things which I think had occupied him in the last couple of weeks with a customer of ours. So he wanted to share some thoughts and tips about archiving. So Uwe, all yours.
Hello everybody. Try to share my screen and hope that the resolution fits. Okay. So
Looks good.
yeah. Well, despite the fact that we had a really interesting soccer match yesterday with a surprising result, I'll talk about something completely different. And what you see here in the title is the topic archiving XStep's. So I prepared a little agenda for it. First of all, I want to give you some general information about the archiving topic and how execution steps are, let's say, dealing with archiving data. Then I will talk about the current shipped option to archive XStep data using the so-called XML data archiving solution, abbreviated XML DAS. We will tell you something about the prerequisites and the challenges that you might face if you set up an XML DAS system. And I'll give you also a live demo. Because of the, let's say, the research I did in the last couple of weeks, I also developed a prototype that allows archiving execution step data using the archive development kit, the ADK. This archiving solution is quite more familiar for users because this is, let's say, the way you archive data of routings, master recipes, or manufacturing orders. Here I'll give you a short glimpse into the solution approach and also a live demo. And after, let's say, having this demo part, I will provide you all with some information about where you find standard documentation that describes how to set up the systems and give you some more insights. I'll try to keep this presentation on a, let's say, a business process level, and don't want to talk too much about the, let's say, the coding parts and the technical stuff. If you're interested in, we can have a, let's say, a follow-up session where I can give you more technical details about the topics that we cover today. Okay, general information. So first thing that one should be familiar if we talk about archiving execution steps. The execution steps and the XStep trees that you maintain and use in the various applications, they are tightly bound to the, let's say, to the parent object, to the master recipe or the order or the standard XStep version. And this means, it's also realized technically that you can only archive the XStep data if, let's say, the leading object, means the master recipe or the order, is archived before. So what happens during archiving a master recipe that contains XSteps is that once the master recipe data is archived and the deletion runs to remove the master recipe data that was archived from the database tables, the corresponding execution step trees got a, let's say, a marker for being ready for archiving. I'll demo it in a couple of minutes. What's also important to know is if you have the tree structure of the XSteps in mind, this is the current way how they are archived. This means these tree structures are quite, let's say, similar to a structured document such as an XML file. And what happens during using the current archiving solution, the XML data archiving solution, is that the content of the XStep tree is converted into an XML file. You might know, let's say, this kind of functionality if you export and import content of the XStep repository. So it's the same way you transfer the XStep tree object into XML elements and attributes. And after having this XML file created, this XML file is archived using the so-called XML data archiving solution. So this is state-of-the-art, since the execution steps have been, let's say, released for general availability, which is quite a couple of years ago. And the archiving sequence and the current solution is, first of all, we have to archive the leading object, the master recipe, or the manufacturing order, remove the, or execute the deletion run for this archived master object or leading object. Then you get the execution step trees as being ready for archiving. So the tree information gets an updated flag. And then you use, let's say, the archiving object that's specially developed for the execution steps in transaction SARA, called SARA. And the archiving object CMX XSteps then allows you to check those XStep trees that are marked for archive and archive them. After archiving, let's say, or execution of the writing report that transfers the XStep data into the XML format, into the XML DS system, you can start the deletion of the data that was archived from the database tables. And this means that the complete XStep tree containing all of the parameter values, instructions and steps is then removed from the database. So this is in general the sequence. If we have a short glimpse on the ADK based prototype, the archiving sequence will be the same, except to the fact that no XML file is created during writing the data to the archive. So I'm pretty sure that most of you who worked with archiving solution in the ABAP environment have almost never heard about XML data archiving solution. When we developed the execution steps and when we talked to the colleagues from the archiving department, they came up with a new solution to archive structured data in XML files, which was quite a promising one. And today, as of today, the XML data archiving solution is quite more known in the Java part of SAP applications than in the other part. This might also be a reason because some of the technical prerequisites that you can also find in the documentation is that as far as you use the XML data archiving solution, you require having a system that has a Java J2EE engine and a vector storage for storing the XML, the archived XML files. I don't want to go too much into the details. What you also require is to have an RFC connection from the ERP system, where the XStep data is, to the XML DAS system, and also on the proper customizing settings for execution steps. I will show this in a couple of minutes. So these are the technical prerequisites. Now, Arne just mentioned it, we had, let's say, some busy work hours because customers try to archive large amount of XStep data with the help of the writing reports, and they didn't succeed. Why they don't succeed? Because if you have a look at the right part of the screen. You see the picture here. This is a selection screen for the writing report. And the only thing that you really can do to select the XStep trees that are marked for archive is to choose the application. Application means master recipe, SXS versions, or manufacturing order. You'll get into trouble if you, let's say, archive a lot of manufacturing orders, so 20, 30,000, since you work with, have been working with XSteps, and you did not execute the archiving or the removal of the XStep data that belongs to the archived and deleted manufacturing orders. Here we are not able to, let's say, archive just a part of it, just a subset, let's say up to 200 entries. The system tries to first load all of the XStep trees that could be archived, that have this archiving flag, and then tries to archive them in one run. And the things that you usually will get is that you run out of memory, and the system will roll back the archiving session, and you are not able to archive these documents. These XML files. I'll show you how the corrections that we are going to ship look like, that allow, let's say, a kind of packaging of the XStep data. What's also a challenge is that the XML DS system, or to say the implementation that is currently available, has kind of restricted search functionality. So first of all, from a technical perspective, you can't use the Archive Explorer for those of you who work, let's say, with archived manufacturing orders. This won't work because XML-DS has a different approach to it. It would be possible to also define, let's say, custom-owned searches using, say, something they call property indices, but we haven't shipped such solutions so far, which is also not that good as a third point. If you are, let's say, used to have detailed application log information, if you execute archiving run for master recipes or manufacturing orders, you will get less detailed archiving log information if you execute XML, DS, writing or deletion reports containing XStep data. This is also due to the fact that the XML DS solution is not doesn't contain all of the full-blown functionality that the ADK-based archiving solutions provide. For those of you who are not having too much systems in your landscape that use Java, the usage of Java might not be that preferable. And the fifth point is that since we, let's say, shipped XSteps with the current archiving solution, there are not that much more applications like the execution steps that really use XML-DAS. And the last point, for those of you who dig in a little bit deeper into the topic of information lifecycle management, I would say this is archiving plus plus. XML-DAS solutions don't have the full ILM support, as applications do have that use the ADK, Archive Development Kit functionality, and also the, let's say, offered ILM features. So some challenges, and then I think it's part to do the first live demo. What I'll show you is archiving the XStep data using the XML-DAS solution. We'll have a check to see how the customizing settings look like, also look in the customizing of the archiving objects. Then I'll try to archive XSteps of XSS versions and if we succeed, I'll try to archive the XStep software master recipe. Okay. So just switch to one of our systems. Okay. I just started the archiving transaction SARA called Sarah, and chose our archiving object that is called CMX XSteps. You can see here we have defined actions for writing the data, for deleting the archive data, and also kind of an overview called management, where you can see the archiving sessions. Okay, first of all, what's interesting for checking the part, here are parts of application-specific customizing and also cross-archiving object customizing. We'll have a closer look to the archiving object-specific customizing. You can see here these are settings that are also described in the SAP library links that I'll provide at the end of this session. You have this settings for the delete program. For those of you who work already with archiving in the SAP environment, you might be familiar with that, and also the possibility to run the deletion jobs. Depends also on the system setting, if you start it automatically or if you say, okay, I'll trigger it separately. Here in our demo scenario, we have this start automatically. So this means as far as the data is written to the archive, the deletion run starts and deleted. Here we have also some test modes and live modes and productive modes variants that have to be maintained, but we'll see this later on also. Archive routing is not that important for this object. What's quite, let's say, also important is to have this logical home path. This is the structure, system ID, the client, and the object. This means the archiving object. And this will be reflected also in the way the archive data structures on the web DAV system later on. And so this is also standard. What's quite, let's say, is unique for those XML-based archiving objects is the configuration of this data archiving service. And here we see the RFC destination, and quite very important is that it has to be set to be active. So, and the last part, which can be, let's say, challenging, is to synchronize the home paths. This means that the external XML-DS system gets the information where the XStep data will be stored to. I don't want to execute this. If it's not executed here, it will be executed automatically during the first archiving run. Okay, so this is a short glimpse to the archive administration. So, and the next thing that I'll try to do is to set up some data that should be archived. Okay, here we are in the XStep repository. Should be very familiar to those of you who work with it. And I'm just expanding here the folders, standard XStep and a standard XStep version. And what you see also here is that the version got a status which is rejected. I require some status changes from a version that is created or released to get into the marked for archive state. So here we are. We got one which is released. And what I also want to demonstrate is I added an additional XStep. I will add an additional XStep node after it's released, and just tell you why. the XSteps have implemented a logging of changes using XML-based change logs. If you create, if you create XSteps for master recipes or routings, then since the XStep tree is created, change documents or change logs were written and created. For manufacturing orders and the XSteps that belong to the manufacturing orders, no change logs are created, and for XStep trees that belong to standard XStep versions, we only activate the change document or change logging if standard XStep version was in status released and we had some changes after that. This was also implemented due to the fact that before we came up with the approval status changes that allow you to let's say secure and approved let's say release of a standard XStep version, with a digital signature you are able to release standard XStep versions and set them back into process again. So these let's say status changes have been revertible, and there we wanted to take a little more of control with respect to the changes that have been made in the meantime. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll change the status, and you see here also from reject you can go back to edit or to archived, and archived just means that it's flagged for archiving, so it's not archived again, or not already archived. I'll do so. And so, just to prevent errors with buffering in the system, I'll just take this one that was released to obsolete, and hopefully get this done. Okay, so it works fine. Okay. Now we have some standard XSteps that should be also standard XStep trees of standard XStep versions that should be ready to be archived. The next thing that I want to do is I want to create master recipe. So we got this one. Okay, that's the wrong plant. See it again. Yes. So I just copied a master recipe that has an XStep tree with a couple of content that you can see here. I'll save it. I just created it. And because I'm a lazy guy, I just want to delete it and archive it. Okay. So now switching back. We want to define a writing report, or a variant for a writing report. So, and now I've already prepared one, and just let you show how the improved selection screen looks like. So, if you see here non-translated selection criteria, select options and parameters, this is due to the fact that the translation in this correction system hasn't taken place. So you have more options. to select the XStep data that you want to archive. First of all, what, let's say, remains the same is that you can choose the application. Here I choose the standard XStep versions as application. Now you have the possibility to enter a start from and start to date and time. And this allows you to search for XStep trees that have a creation time that lies between those intervals. As a second option, you can say, okay, choose days, and P older means if you enter here 2, then the system will check for XStep trees that have a creation date that lies between the 7th of July and today. So this is quite comfortable. And also what we added here is a limit. Here you can limit the number of XStep trees that you archive in one run. This is due to the fact that we observed that the XML files of an XStep tree could easily have a, let's say, a data volume about, let's say, 1 or 2 megabytes, depending on the XStep data that you have in there, have maintained. And if you just try to archive 1,000 of those XStep trees, you will get into, let's say, memory consumption of your, let's say, your system that will stop the system from working, at least from archiving the data. And there we set a, let's say, the maximum number from 999. And here, in my case, I just enter a limit of 5. Okay, so these parameters here are parameters that are also specific for the XML DS. So you can also execute additional checks, but this is not necessary in our case. Okay, I just go back without saving it. What you have to do to get things up and running is to define a start date. I say, okay, I want to do it immediately, which you just want to wait until tomorrow. And then I keep my fingers crossed and press execute. You see here a new archiving job was scheduled. And we have a look at the job overview. So the system was quite fast. What you see here, see the start time. We have execution of a write report. We'll surely check the spool log. And we have also the logging of 2 deletion runs. Maybe I can also have a look at the spool log, what's in there. Okay, just double click on it and let's see what we got. So first thing that you see here is that it took 4 trees, 4 XStep trees. This is also, let's say, equal to the number 4 what you find here under written resources. So from the XML DS perspective, an XStep tree with all its versions and the data in it, it's handled as 1 resource. So if you got 4, we have 4 resources. And here we also have change logs. And the change logs are part of, let's say, the XStep tree that I changed after I released the version. So what's quite not that good is that you don't get any information which of the depending database table entries are and also written to the archive. But this is due to the fact that we first create an XML file and then let's say put the content to the XML database. So this is not that detailed as you would expect from an ADK-based solution. Okay, this was the writing report, so it seems pretty good. And we can just check here the logging of a deletion run that was triggered after the XStep data was archived, and here you get more details. So what we see here, don't want to talk too much about the technical part of it. We have here information about the relation of the XStep tree nodes to each other because it's a non-historical object. You find entries in this table, NREL and NOBG. And also here we had some parameters, 26 records. We had 3 steps. We had, let's say, in it we had 4 trees, and we had these small values that are stored internally, and also medium values. This means these are values with a length of about 255, up to 255 characters. So, and also the archive data contains 7 instructions. Okay, in this one. And if we check the next one, I think we see a similar part. So it's not that detailed. I think that this is another log that was written. Okay, so this it is. What you now can do, just navigate back to the management. See, okay, we got here archiving sessions, and perhaps you remember we got the structure of the home path, where you see here it's the system name, it's the client, and also the archiving object. And here we had, let's say, some subfolders containing the changelog data, and here folders that store already the data of the archiving runs. You see, I did some testing here. So we also archived XStep trees for master recipes. And now what we can see here, hopefully, is information about our run today. So, okay, here I started the archiving run. You can also have a look at the detailed job, but really won't provide you too much information is here. Also, if you click on these buttons, list of resources in XSD, you won't get any entries back. So, seems that it's quite fine. And before we continue with the archiving of the master recipe data, I will just show you how the situation changed in the XStep repository that we used. Okay, for those of you who might use an archive also data of other SAP application objects, you can have the possibility to display the data from the archive, or to reload it back. Concerning the XML-based data archiving solution of XStep's, there is not a, let's say, the possibility to direct have access from the SARA transaction to the archive data. But for those applications who allow reloading archive data, you'll see the data in the application itself. So here we are in the XStep repository again. So if I got the right ones, we should see, first of all here, if you remember it, I archived this version. So I get the proper state. And also what's displayed here, the complete tree, was loaded from the archive. So not loaded from the database at all. So you see, might be not that bulletproof, the data that I created, but here normally I would expect a little bit more information about this. We have the state of being archived set of the archiving report, and also for the, sorry, this is another data that worked fine. And here we have also archived data again. So this is the direct reloading. If we talk about reloading the XStep data in the application, then it's important to know that for master recipes and routings, we let's say prevented the reloading of archived data. This is due to the fact that the archived master recipes themselves can't be displayed in a form from the, let's say, in a way from the archive that would allow you to trigger the XStep editor. For standard XSteps and for XStep that belong to manufacturing orders, and there the system will try to load XStep tree data first from the database table, and also if it didn't get any entries, or found any entries, then it will try to load the XStep data from an archive if the XML archive is activated. Okay, so let's try to archive the master recipe. I will just check if I have a variant that allows us to archive this part. Okay, this is not. I think I want to archive again. Okay, hopefully that works. Just keep it empty, but we'll see this later on. So maintain the start date and got it. Okay, you see things are going on. Just click on the refresh button, and this should be the one where I've written the data to the archive. And okay, this was another one. It found two data sets and it put it to the archive. So this is the writing log from an archiving object that used the ADK functionality. And you see it's quite more, let's say, detailed compared with the XML-DS part of it. Okay, so, but this would not be sufficient to archive or to mark the XStep trees for being archived. And here we have to check, okay, writing was completed, the corresponding archiving run, and execute the deletion run. So schedule it. I think it's also hopefully finished. So check the log. No log messages. Okay. So it hopefully did its job, but we'll see this in a couple of seconds. So I want to archive the data that belong to the master recipe. And also, I prepared a variant for this. So set 2 days, perhaps you can also say date time, and give it this information. What I'm adjusting here is it's a demo system, and I'm let's say reusing archiving variants. But you've got the warning messages. You should not do this because this could not be that nice for you later on to identify what if you change the used version afterwards what you really did. And I think I schedule the archiving job. Okay. And with respect to the time, should be that one. So we got also 2 trees that were archived, and also check the deletion report. So, oh, it's just active. Okay. And this is the deletion run. The big difference with compared to the data is the XStep trees that belong to master recipes and routings. They are so-called historical objects. And what you see here is also that here the data from the historical or the database tables that store the information about the historical data objects are deleted. Also historical relations, where you don't find any entries. This is also due to the fact that we don't, if we use historical objects, we don't use or store the data in the database table of the non-historical objects. Don't find any entries here. So also probably worked fine. What's also different compared with the standard XStep versions, we have context tables. So you know that the XStep tree root node is bound to the corresponding master recipe by its root context. And if you maintained context like phase 20 or phase 30 of your master recipe for an XStep or a standard XStep reference, you will also have entries here. So it deletes or removes entries from the XStep runtime database tables and also from the context tables, which is pretty fine. Okay, what I can't show you here is how it looks like if we reload it from the master recipe, because yeah, the master recipe doesn't provide this functionality. Okay, so what you've seen here so far is standard, and with the help of the correction that will be released soon, you will be able to archive the XStep data using the XML/VS framework. So now I want to, let's say, go a little bit aside the standard solution. As far as the master recipes, routings, manufacturing orders, they use the ADK functionality. The idea came up, could we provide a better feasibility and functionality if we can offer XStep archiving also on an ADK-based solution. What you see here is a prototype. I just marked it in red. Prototype means that it's not standard, and we'll surely have internal discussions how we continue if we are able to ship and offer this solution as a replacement for the existing archiving solution, or how do we continue. But this is still in discussion. But I want to share at least information and the idea with you, also to get your valuable feedback. Okay, if we have a look at the advantages that such an ADK-based solution offers, is that the ILM compliance, the information lifecycle management compliance, is far more easy to achieve because we can reuse most of the functions that the ILM folks provided for the ADK application, ADK archiving runtime. We don't need J2EE system. The biggest advantage is that you can use the archive information system, and we'll have more detailed logs. Okay, but if we have, let's say, things that really would work better, we also encounter some of the challenges or some of disadvantages. The ADK-based archiving solution takes all the data from the database tables that belong to the XStep trees and stores it in the database table format. Compared with an XML file that's also of an XStep tree that reflects the structure of this XStep tree, because of its hierarchy, you won't get at least an idea about how the XStep tree looked like if you just look at the database tables. Let's see, the other challenge, and this is something we are still working on, is to build the XStep tree from the database table entries, from the archive database table entries, is quite a little bit more complex than to let's say, reconstruct the XStep tree based on the archived XML file. So, but let's see how far we get. Just want to check. What I surely will try to show you is to how we can archive standard XStep versions, and perhaps if the time is enough, we have enough time left, then we check the if you could archive the XSteps of a master recipe. So I have to switch my demo system. This is a demo system, and it could be that because this is still work in progress and it's a prototype, that things don't work in the way that they did yesterday, because I did some changes there. But let's see how far we get. So just check if I have some data that I can archive. No. So then, let's say at least create a little bit of data. Just will create two. Okay. So let's check. This is also the disadvantage to do some mass processing. Okay. You see here I got some versions that were rejected. And so let's try to archive, to set them ready for, mark them for archive. Okay, this is something that might occur. Don't be worried about that. I will just try to, sorry. To get two of them, I think I should. Now. Okay, seems that doesn't like this version. Oh, sorry. Well, since I'm likely disordered like the Brazilian soccer players have been yesterday. Oh, we just take one. Just to show you the principle. Oh. Okay, here we go. So, procedure, like we did for the last couple of minutes, and the new, let's say the prototype, is called CMX_XS. How it would look like if if SAP decides to bring it into standard, don't know. But this is just a working title. Don't forget about this process order part. This is not relevant. What I wanted to show you is how this archiving object looks like, because it's a little bit different. Okay. See full-blown SAP archiving objects. So we'll just okay. This is the new one. What you see here is we have different reports for writing it. We don't provide reloading programs today. We have a different deletion program. And I think that's it for this part. We have also a structure definition where you also have the required XStep database tables there in there. And I think more I would not give you that much. Okay, more detailed information. What's quite important. This archiving object will allow you to restart and set up, say, writing archived data if the write report stopped, so it gets interrupted. So this is also part of the ILM, Information Lifecycle Management Standard, and the archiving writing report is developed in that way, though that it's possible to do so. And also what you see here, it's not flagged at all anymore as an XML archiving object. Okay, don't want to get you too much biased by this archiving object stuff. What's interesting from, say, our perspective is how does writing look like, and so also prepared a prototype. Sorry, for the prototype variant. We just check how it looks like. So the selection screen is quite similar. So for those of you who are able to understand German, because German is already the development language for the XStep part, here we have the possibility to choose the application and also to define the maximum number of XStep trees that are archived in the one run, and also, let's say, the extended possibility to select the XStep trees that are marked for archive based on their creation date. What's different compared with the XML based archiving is that you have this section here. This is also part of the Information in Lifecycle Management Standard, that you can choose the detailed logging, how the logs are outputted, and also the archiving session note. This is quite similar for the ADK-based one and the XML-based one. Okay, so change the variant, something that you should not do. Okay, want to start now and see how it works. Hopefully works fine. Okay, check the log overview. This seems pretty good. See, it's also active, so we just click on the refresh button. And what we see here, we have extracted the data that belongs to the XStep tree and identified the corresponding database table entries and wrote it to the archive. Okay, so log looks different. So here you get the detailed information about the database tables and the number of entries that are archived, and also here's a message that contains the root node of the XStep tree that allows you to identify the XStep tree database table which tree was really selected, and also information that is a writing report and then that the execution was done in a productive mode. Okay, so check the deletion. And also for concerning the deletion, we have the information that the productive mode was used. Also here a log summary that that's one XStep tree that belongs to the standing XStep version was deleted, and also the detailed log that was written during archiving. Okay. What won't work is that I just go to the XStep repository and try to reload, try to open the archived standard XStep version, because the part that loads, or let's say constructs XStep tree information from the archived database table entries is not implemented so far, so you will get an error. So I want to just to demonstrate what the additional options. So here you have this so-called Archive Explorer. And to have a look at the database table contents, we require so-called archive infrastructure that was shipped. Okay, and let's check what we got. Here we got a list of grids of nodes, so it's not that really properly sorted, but let's try to sort it. No, just keep it. What we can check here, if we double click on it, and then you see here the database table content. And if we just see one entry and want to know how the database table content that has been stored in the database table concerning the root node, you get the complete information here. You get the object ID, the description, and the other information. So you see here, these are the database tables that contain the content. Whereas you can also have a look at the small values. What you see also here is the XStep runtime stores the values, the characteristic and their values, at least the characters with less than 40 characters length in its value part in this database table. And you can also directly read this, here the value key is simple. Okay, but this is prototyping and not completely finished. So I want to go back for this little overview page and then ask some. I think there was one question that I also saw. At this presentation to the XStepCafe, we have really a good section about data archiving in our SAP standard library. Here I just cross-linked how more information about how XSteps are archived, and also, let's say, the parts that are more relevant for the application that use XStep data, like SXS versions, master recipes, and process orders. So these are the things that I want to show, and just stop sharing. And I saw one question. There was, shall we use T-code CA99 for archive? If I don't have it completely in mind, but I think that you can use so. I'm pretty sure that this standard functionality will use the archiving, at least for the I think for the master recipes. Yeah. So if you have questions that I can answer, then feel free to ask them.
Hello, I have a question.
Yes?
Just for the archiving, for example, for process order, do we have to archive first the process and after the XStep? It's
correct. Yes. So the process order has to be archived. I think also the deletion one has to be triggered for the archived process order data to get the XStep trees that belong to the process order marked for archive.
And if we archive only the XSteps, what happens in the process order still remain?
You won't be able to archive the XSteps because if you try to start the writing report for the XStep data archiving object, the system will check for the archiving status. So it will only take those XStep trees into account that have archiving state of 1. 1 means that are marked for being archived. And setting this value to 1 only happens if during the archiving of the order, or what I just demoed, if you do the say the status change for the standard XStep versions. There are no coding lines and coding parts in the standard that allow you to set the XStep data ready for being archived. So the idea was to at least trigger the archiving of the XStep as an integrated part of the archiving of the application data, but by providing a separate archiving object, the idea was that you could archive the XStep data at a later point in time, compared with the direct archiving of the process order data.
Thank you.
So we have, just maybe to pick on that question, we have had a customer marked the XStep trees for deletion through customer program, and then you can do it before the archiving of the process orders. So there is a possibility, but it's a customer program then.
But this means that you mark them for deletion, so you really physically removed the data. You don't archive the XStep data.
Sorry, marked for archiving.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah,
So,
marked for archiving. Yeah.
So this is correct. I just talked about the standard, but should be possible. And I don't know, had your customer experiences with loading the archived data into the process order that haven't been archived?
Well, in fact, the customer doesn't want to archive.
He just want to get rid of.
Because they say these kind of XStep trees, they have no QA importance. It's just technical data. So that's a complexity we are having. If we would like to delete the data because of the size of the data, the tables. It's billions. It's really billions of entries in some of the tables. But it's not possible in the standard, of course. You need to first archive, and then you can only delete them. But we're also trying to bypass that, but it's not so easy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I think that will be the most common question in the industry. That when you are using these XSteps for 10 years or so, that you have so many entries and so big tables, but you don't necessarily want to archive your process orders already. Yeah. So that's I don't know if there's an answer on for that particular question. Yeah. But I think it must be there with several customers who are using a lot of your XSteps.
Yeah. So the principal question was, we had also the discussion, are the XStep data carrying information that would be relevant for audits if you're working in a regulated environment? Normally, if you have browser-based PI sheet, you would take them. But if you don't, let's say, need the XStep data, then let's say there would be no necessity from a business perspective to archive them. You won't, would physically delete them. But let's say the initial design of the XSteps didn't take this option into account. Mm-hmm. And as far as we are on the safe side with our current solution with respect to the regulated environment, yeah.
Uwe, there's one. Uwe?
Yes.
There's one consideration on that topic. If you are using XStep's with, for example, some validation formulas or so, then they are only sort of in the XStep itself. So just to make sure that your batch record contains all this relevant information, you would need then to make sure that it is also visible in some form in the output, so that you sort of also mention those thresholds or whatever it is, those limits on a text element in the PI sheet. So when you do that, then these will also be passed to the batch record, and all is fine. But if you just leave them inside your formula, then it might be a gap.
Okay, one question. Can we know what is the other feature developments or evolving in XStep area?
You mean plan development?
Yeah.
Can't tell you about the plans that are here. What we talk about is today is let's say state of the art, and also the correction to spread it among the people, and the possibility to let's say at least ease the archiving with a possible ADK based alternative. But concerning XSteps, I have no information about the roadmap. Yeah.
Okay. Now my question is like SAP Fiori has come with some apps. In future, can we use XStep via Wi-Fi URL?
So as of today, or let's say state of today is that though the the browser-based PI sheet data is in an generated HTML, we require the SAP GUI because it uses an HTML control on its top. And so the browser-based PI sheet, the complete framework, is today not suited for being used by Fiori. But if you have a look at at least Fiori, the sub UI5 part, there are quite some differences concerning, let's say, the business requirements. And
generally speaking,
yeah.
Over the Fiori program looks at certain use cases and personas, so the user roles that they tackle first, and they did this with very simple things like these approval Fiori apps, because that is quite closed up user role, and so they sort of going one after another, and the more complex, of course, the remaining roles become, the more effort it will be. So I think the roadmap is clear that Fiori is the future UI technology, but of course all the existing use cases and things like XSteps and PI sheets are pretty heavy stuff. So I believe that those will be at last. So I know that there has been started a discussion on some things for the line worker, but I'm not sure how far they got.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Maybe the last question regarding the archiving. is there also a possibility to delete the data from the DAS?
As far as I know, you don't have from XML DAS. As far as I know, compared with the ILM, let's say, part, or the ADK-based parts, the deletion of the archived data on an XML DAS is quite limited. But I can ask the colleagues for details about this. This is also, let's say, reasonable motivation to think about let's say, at least an alternative archiving object that's XML, that's ADK based, because there you would be able to also destruct the data. Yeah, so it's, let's say, the time, the possibilities that SAP offers with regards to information lifecycle management, they really evolved compared with the state that we had 10 years ago. So for the XML-based stuff, yeah, I will ask the colleagues and provide you with the information.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just one question about archiving process orders, about the style sheet. If you archive your process orders with a standard archiving style sheet, and you retrieve the data, you will see it always with the archiving style sheet. You will never see it with your original style sheet layout. Is this correct, or do I have a chance by retrieving the data to see my original situation?
Hi, Peter.
Hi.
If you talk about archiving, you mean archiving browser-based PI sheets?
Yes, I'm talking about archiving.
Yeah. So in the repository you defined different style sheets. Also for the archiving card, because for the archiving case, because if you load archive browser-based PI sheet from the optical archive in an EBR, or let's say in the standalone transaction, you won't have the possibilities like a context menu, right mouse click for these objects, compared with let's say the possibilities that you have if you work with the PI sheets in the same productive mode. And therefore the style sheets look a little bit different. I think also the comments are placed in a different part of the screen, and also the information about the digital signature processes that have been completed are also displayed differently compared with let's say the productive PI sheets. So this is due to some technical reasons. Yeah,
I think it's also sort of regulation reasons, because I mean, if you archive those things, you must make sure that all regulation relevant data is visible there. So that's the reason why it had to be put in, I think.
Yeah, but you see the regulation relevant data. If you don't archive it, you see it as well. That's not.
Yes, but if you have the need to archive, then you need to have an answer for looking at the archive data as well in a complete form, because we don't have a retrieve report to load in a batch with all the PI sheets, so that you can see them like in a normal browser-based PI sheet, and therefore you need to have it differently.
It's only because I will get the question from my business. If we start archiving PI sheets that are older than, for example, 2 years, and if they have an audit and they check a PI sheet that's 5 months old and another one that's 3 years old, they will look quite different online. If you print it, of course, you will see the same. But
okay, Peter, but then you, I think you of course that's valid, but then you need to know what the differences are, and you need just to be able to explain that it looks different, but the data is really the same for technical reasons. Yeah, I mean, these are really technical reasons that we put the data differently there, but you need to really then sort of make them understand that it's not different data, it's different representation.
Okay.
I think the most important thing here.
Okay.
So it's pretty late now, so maybe if there's no pressing questions from
So I
somebody
have
else,
maybe a last question, if still allowed. Is it okay?
Good.
Yes. Sorry. But maybe we can postpone it if there is not enough time. I will just ask it, and then you can say if you prefer to postpone it. I'm here the customer which wants to use a PI-PCS integration with the Mettler Toledo system. And they want to use the XStep's for generating the content recipe to speak with that Mettler Toledo system. And there is documentation available from SAP, but it's already very old, in fact, where you can download or where you can import in XI or in PI, where you can import the ANSI S95 structure, the mapping. But this documentation is no longer available. Is this still possible to do this through the PI interface? And can this predetermined mapping be imported from SAP? Or has this moved in the meantime to MII? We are struggling with those kind of questions. Is that maybe you have a short answer to that to put us on the right path?
I know that. It's maybe better.
So Anna, you have some short information?
I know that the S95 connector was there somehow, but I think it was also working with an MRI then. And basically, I mean, the interface, the PI-PCS interface, it didn't change at all. So even with that interface, I mean, it's just a matter of mapping. The PI-PCS interface is just putting the table data quite flat on an interface, and then you have to have some kind of middleware, and in that case I think it was the MRI which acted as a middleware, which then sort of mapped things, identified certain nodes and mapped these to certain S95 compliant tags. But yeah, I mean it really depends also from the use case and whether Mettler does not have a connector for this PI-PCS interface, because it's quite old already. Maybe they have it as well, or you need to make it in project so that you use PI-PCS interface. Maybe you can also do it with MRI if the customer has MRI to do this mapping. You need to identify certain key characteristics and sort of find your way through the structure, which is of course not very convenient, but yeah, that's the only thing we have here. And then of course we have the OPC route, but that's synchronous, not asynchronous.
Yeah, because there used to be these XSD files which could be loaded from SAP into XI, and then you have the mapping available standard in fact. But okay, so it's project mode. Okay.
I think so.
Okay, thank you.
Good. So I think with that, thank you all for your attention and hope you found it useful. As usual, I will put this